Sometimes people have to be responsible not only for their domesticated animals, but for other animals as well. After all, terrible things happen to them too, and they need our help. But the way these animals ask people for help will break your heart. Look at this brave man swimming across a fast-moving river to save a young deer from drowning. Poor thing wasn't even breathing and had to be resuscitated. I hope his mama hears him. Nobody cared that this tiny baby hedgehog was dying of thirst. Nobody except this good man. We don't know how this duck family ended up on this highway, but we know for sure that they all would have been crushed if not for these bikers. They tried to escort the birds across the road, but it turned out to be too scary for them. Then they had to catch the ducklings with their bare hands, which is why the mother duck flew away in despair. The bikers' only hope was that the entire highway would come to a stop for their rescue mission, and every driver stopped. The family is reunited and safe. Using a lighter and a screwdriver, this man was able to find a way to free a hedgehog from a plastic bottle. Just look at how out of breath it was. A small kangaroo had swam to the middle of the river and was completely worn out. People on the boat immediately rushed to its aid, but it would have been too traumatic to put it in the boat. So instead, they took the kangaroo for the ride of its life. Foxes can be dangerous animals, and these three were already agitated after many unsuccessful attempts to escape from an abandoned pool. But this man wasn't afraid to risk his health by pulling each of them out, literally with his bare hands. The fawn is struggling against a current when this family finds it. While mom and child root for it from the shore, dad finds a way to save it at the very last second. The last thing a firefighter expected to find in a forest fire was a live baby kangaroo. Just a few more moments and the flames would have taken its life. Now, the baby animal's in good hands and is even given a name.
Hi, everyone, meet my little baby.
This huge whale shark swam to a dive site for divers to relieve its terrible pain. Its body had been bound with a rope for a long time, but now it's finally free.
It takes just 30 seconds to remove it for years.
The fox was so hungry that it wasn't afraid to approach people, but all this man had was a Snickers, and he gave it away without a second thought. This deer is desperately trying to get out of the water, but it can't see a thing because of the can on its head, and this guy couldn't swim out to help. People had to use a boat, but the deer kept swimming away out of fear as water quickly began filling the can, and just as people were about to save it, it went under the boat. While this girl was recording a TikTok, her dog fell into the pool and began to drown. Fortunately, she heard the splash and reacted quickly. This hare knows exactly how to ask a human for help.
Ну что ты там? Сейчас спасу, все, сейчас.
This huge elk got stuck in a swamp and barely had the strength to keep its head above the surface. It took 5 people to get it out of danger. Look at how exhausted it is.
Понятно. Тяни еще, назад слезет, тяни еще. Еще, чтобы задние ноги вылезли. Все.
Can't even walk.
Пускай полежит, все, не трогайте.
After 6 years with a tire around its neck, this crocodile finally swam out to people to ask for help. Or at least to put an end to its suffering, and the humans exceeded all of its expectations. A calf wandered out onto the ice and couldn't be saved in any usual way, so the rescuers decided to try a very risky approach, blowing it off with a helicopter. For 3 whole days, this poor young elephant had to stand to keep from drowning. People couldn't pull it from above nor push it from below. Miraculously, they managed to find an excavator to help the poor animal get out. This python was so hungry that it was willing to eat anything, but no one was expecting to find a 1-meter-long towel. Fortunately, veterinarians were able to help the reptile in time. It's unclear how long this mother bear had been guarding a dumpster in the middle of a deserted road, but one thing is for sure. Without these brave people, her 3 offspring never would have made it out of there alive. An unfortunate fox couldn't find its way out of an ice-cold canal for several days. Having lost all hope, it could only hope that humans would pass by, and they came to the rescue. Some goats got tangled up in ropes while on a walk, and one of them began to suffocate. She had already stopped breathing by the time her owner noticed, but he didn't give up and literally breathed life back into her. This wolf was injured and couldn't get out of an icy river. The animal was already stiff by the time rescuers got to it, so they urgently had to resuscitate it like they would a human. And they did the impossible. No one would have heard the cries of this baby camel in the middle of the desert. By some miracle, this man showed up and was able to return the youngling to its mother. You never expect a trip to the river with your best friend to end in tragedy. But this man was prepared to fight to the end to save his dog's life. And he won. I'm sure he'll check the temperature of the water from now on. In an attempt to get a little food, the poor skunk became trapped and was more scared than it's ever been. Luckily, this woman set aside her preconceptions and decided to help it.
Hi, buddy.
A deer had been lying in a swamp for so long that it had already accepted its fate. But these people decided to prove that the animal's life was just beginning. When these dogs noticed some strangers wandering around in an abandoned water park, they did everything they could to get the humans' attention, and all to bring help to their drowning friend. and now they have to make sure he's okay. That's what I call true friendship. This foal was orphaned immediately after birth. Exhausted, it tried to find at least a drop of milk. The poor little thing was so weak that it could no longer move on its own. But then the impossible happened, and baby Miracle found a foster mom. There were 8 little raccoons trapped in a large dumpster. They didn't have the slightest chance of getting out until this man came along.
Today's the day, boys.
And he didn't even leave the weakest among them there to die. This little monkey couldn't stand to watch a frightened kitten calling for help. But it couldn't do anything about it except let people know. And now they each have a friend for life. A family out fishing immediately stopped what they were doing when they saw a bear in the middle of the river. It had a tub on its head and it wouldn't have lasted more than a couple of hours, but these people gave it a chance. This cormorant couldn't eat on its own and lay practically motionless. But this veterinarian quickly figured out what was wrong when he found a half-liter plastic bottle inside the bird. 2 deer fought so hard to establish who was the alpha male that their antlers got locked and they fell right into a cold river. They had no choice but to accept help from this man and never speak of the incident again. Every day, this pro saves cats that have climbed into the most inaccessible places.
Do you see her body right here?
Oh.
And today, it's a 10-meter tree.
Hey, kitty. I'll reach her.
Thanks to him, it looks like Cleo gets a bonus life.
Hey, Cleo.
A young raccoon got spooked by some fireworks and tried to find a place to hide, but ended up tangled in a net. Rescuers had to set it free under the close supervision of its mother, who was highly suspicious of humans. But they didn't disappoint. There's nothing harder for a predator than trusting a human, but a person turned out to be a better option than a long, slow death from thirst. A baby badger lost its mother but wasn't prepared to die in the forest. Look at how persistently it asks people to stop and help. Miraculously, it chose the right humans, and now it has a new home and even a friend. I can't imagine how a fox ended up under such a huge rock. But it's quite obvious that the only thing capable of helping it is a human. This mother duck is regretting ever bringing her kids to the pool, but she's definitely lucky that this one belongs to a human who cares. Oh, she's thanking her. This bear was smart enough to open a tin can, but then it got its tongue stuck in it. Somehow, it knew to turn to people for help. Luckily, they weren't afraid of the huge beast and arranged a whole rescue operation for it. This guy's just a photographer, but look at the lengths he's willing to go to save an eagle. The bird had been stuck in the cold mud for so long that its time was running out. It was only thanks to the man's efforts that a slim chance of survival remained. I don't understand how this man even noticed these tiny creatures. He himself didn't immediately realize that he was saving beautiful hummingbirds. You might see a dangerous beast here, but this man saw a desperate mother whose children were starving. He decided to give her his whole catch because, as a father, he understood. This coyote clearly would not have survived the night in the middle of cold Lake Michigan, but the situation changed when the captain of a ship changed course to save the animal's life. I have no idea what could drive a huge polar bear up a 9-meter cliff, but the prospects for staying up there forever were even worse. Rescuers had to embark on a very risky operation to change the bear's fate. And it worked. It's safe and sound now. In just a matter of hours, a huge camel managed to sink down into quicksand up to its chest. Soon, no one would even know it was ever here. The only thing that helped it survive was the effort of these people.
Well done, everyone!
An unfortunate koala lost its entire family and home in a fire and was preparing to meet its own demise. But then, suddenly, its guardian angel appeared. When some workers began dismantling a sewer, they couldn't have imagined what they would find waiting for them. A bear had been buried alive and soon would have simply suffocated. But these very fortunate circumstances saved its life. A pony named Angel Marie was born with just 3 legs and had never taken her first steps. But thanks to prosthetics, she's gonna live a full and happy life. While a mother leopard was out hunting, her cubs fell into a trap. She never would have seen them again if not for these kind people. A genetic defect left this horse's spine deformed beyond recognition and made its life miserable. She was 20 years old before she found herself in caring hands where she could live out the rest of her days in peace. This monkey's heart stopped from an electric shock, but some kind people spent over 15 minutes trying to resuscitate it like a human, and now it's going home. This guy decided to celebrate his 21st birthday by going snowboarding, but he never would have guessed that he'd have to save the life of a horse. This family could have just walked past a duck frozen to the ice, but instead, they pounded at the ice with their bare hands until they freed the poor thing. Two deer were battling it out with their antlers during the rut, and rescuers couldn't intervene until they had worn themselves out.
Was it hooked right in that corner?
Yeah, there, and it's there.
This one.
Right, I've got the antlers here.
It looks like they don't want to fight anymore. An elephant and her 3 babies struggled for 2 days to get out of this pit. They were completely exhausted by the time rescuers arrived. But they're gonna be fine. This person found an unfortunate squirrel in their pool and immediately began squirrel CPR. And it worked. And look, it lingers a little longer to thank its savior. This little bird got trapped in a shop window and had no chance of survival until these guys got special permission from the shop owners to take out the wall and save it.
Все, поймал. Ну, какой красавчик. Лети давай, ну что ты? Ты чё?
This raven had been drifting with the current for a long time and was completely exhausted when people finally noticed it. They helped it get out of the water and did their best to help the bird fly again.
It's okay. It'll be okay, buddy.
That's what the cormorants do. They stretch their wings out. Well, he flew away and he didn't make it in the water, so maybe we'll see him again someday.
This poor koala was hit by a train, but she managed to protect her 3-month-old baby in her pouch. He'll have to learn to live without his mother, but at least he seems to have found some true friends. A camel dying of thirst fell by the roadside in a desert of Algeria. Humans were its last hope, and it got lucky.
Hot shot, huh?
This hawk got so dehydrated that it lost its bearings in the air due to the 50 degrees Celsius heat, but that brought it straight to people. A huge whale shark was swimming around these divers' boat, begging for help. Its head had gotten tangled up in some rope, preventing it from breathing properly. Fortunately, these guys certainly aren't cowards. Watch these freedivers as they rescue reef sharks trapped in a fishing net from death. This unfortunate elk fell from a hill onto the ice and was doomed if people hadn't launched a movie-worthy rescue operation. In Russia, some orcas became trapped in ice and they had no choice but to beg for help from humans. Rescuers had to manually disperse huge chunks of ice, but it was worth it because all 4 were saved. A strong current was going to be the last adventure for this tiny bat, if not for this woman. She didn't hesitate to submerge in the icy water to save the creature.
Oh, I got him.
This parrot has lost its beak, which means it doesn't have long to live. But this doctor custom made a plastic beak for the bird, giving it a second chance for a fulfilling life. During the severe flood in Korea, a dozen cows found refuge on rooftops. But then, the poor animals had to be rescued from there right away. A family of 4 dolphins swam into a freshwater canal and could soon die, so some people formed a human chain to guide the mammals and help them get back to the other side of the bridge. A strong hunger caused this bear cub to climb a tree and get its head stuck in the process.
Yeah.
It was only with the help of a professional rescuer that the bear was able to get back on the ground again.
Heads up, because he's coming that way.
This armadillo may have reached the shore a couple of days after swimming, assuming it had enough strength. But it didn't turn down the opportunity to ride with the wind.
Hell yeah, I found me a new friend. Caught and released.
It's this hungry fox's first time ever seeing noodles, so the man had to show it that they were safe to eat and delicious. The fight for survival can be long and grueling, and for this heron, it was no different. She had almost lost the fight when a bystander refused to turn a blind eye to the animal's plight. Now, the bird'll be just fine. A bat wore itself out while trying to stay afloat in a pond in the middle of an indoor golf course. But when this guy suddenly shows up, the bat immediately grabs onto its lucky ticket. Come on, baby, you can do it. Would you ever help a bat? Write in the comments. This heartwarming video will bring a smile to your face as you see the lengths one man went to help foxes with their food scarcity problem. This koala found itself in a desperate situation while trying to escape the jaws of a dingo. Now, it's clinging to life with all its might as it holds onto a rock. And now, help has finally arrived.
Get up there. Hang on. Oh, shit. You are heavy, little. Yeah.
Alone and trapped, a poor starling had already resigned itself to its fate, but a random passerby decided to fight for it a little more.
Here you go.
It's so hard for the bird to believe that it's been given a second chance. Just look at how this elephant covers her baby with her own body in a last desperate attempt to save him. Her heart stopped beating, and while rescuers struggled to revive her, the baby could do nothing but hope that her mother would wake up. After such an intense moment, it doesn't hurt to catch your breath a little bit and drink some water. Here's what can happen if you have the only source of heat in the entire field. That little mouse took the chance of its life by exposing itself to a giant, and it was worth it.
Oh, where you going, dude? Where you going? Just me and my little friend in here. Oh, look at it. Oh. He's just hanging out.
In 40 degrees Celsius heat, this man wasn't just giving a squirrel a drink, he was giving it life, and the squirrel is very grateful. An unfortunate opossum was found in a very bad condition. It was wounded, dehydrated, and already surrounded by flies. There seemed to be no hope that the creature would survive, but the love and care of people produced a miracle. When a dog fell into a deep, narrow hole, it was nearly impossible to reach, but this man still found a way. Just look at how badly it wants to live. This black vulture was also fairly tired after flying hundreds of miles, so a guy in a paraglider was happy to help it catch its breath. It's unclear how much longer this fox would have suffered if not for a selfless rescuer. The man immediately rushed over to help, even though it was Valentine's Day and he had other plans. But what could be more important than saving a life? It may come as a surprise, but even aquatic animals need access to clean water. And right now, this person is saving a manatee from health problems. A rabbit was frightened by the noise of a lawnmower and jumped into the water in a panic, which turned out to be a terrible decision. The only way to save it was to resuscitate it until it started breathing again.
You breathing?
Breathing.
Hey, breathing
Move
more.
his head. See? Move his head. Point in.
Breathing.
Yeah, he's still breathing.
I don't know if this owl was trying to deliver a letter to someone through the chimney, but after 3 long days trapped inside, these people are the real wizards for rescuing her. A fox obviously would have died of starvation in the middle of a deserted construction site before long. A passerby used all his resourcefulness to help the animal, but it just couldn't wait to be rescued. So it started working with the man as a team. When a mother bird lost her chick, all she could do was beg humans for help. Fortunately, her cries were heard by this woman, who had everything she needed for the rescue mission.
Over me the entire time. And his baby reunited at last.
You won't believe what these people are trying to rescue from a manhole. Without their help, the tiny ducklings would have been trapped forever in the dark with no food. But now they're going back to their mother. An owl made a mistake when it flew into a soccer goal, but a true superhero has come to her rescue. Look at how he keeps her calm while untangling the net. It seems that the bird was expecting anything but a kind heart from such a big man. This man's name is Joseph Sakar, and he feeds 6,000 birds a day directly from his terrace. Along with his wife, the Birdman of India cooks 75 kilograms of boiled rice a day at a cost of $50, which makes up 40% of his income. They've been doing it for over 19 years, and I hope they never stop. This bear cub's home and family were destroyed by a forest fire, but fate sent this man to help him. And not only did he save the little guy, but he also became his new family. This dog can't stand being in its apartment even for a minute, but walking out onto the ledge wasn't its best decision. Fortunately, the pup has good neighbors. For years, Beach Donkey, the African penguin, had to endure the pain and isolation because he was unable to walk or stand on his own. But thanks to specially designed sandals, he can now walk around the huge aquarium exhibition. While hunting birds, a cat got into a tricky situation 35 meters above the ground and didn't realize it until it was too late. All the animal could do was hope that the human had a steady hand. An eagle's life hung by a thread as it was stuck among the branches at a height of 4 meters in the air. Its wing was broken and it wasn't even trying to free itself. Fortunately, there happened to be kind people nearby who knew how to help.
The reason we thought it was a male is
And here at the rehab.
This girl's determination to save a tiny bat despite the prickly cactus is admirable. This magpie was hurt by other magpies and only survived because this man stepped in. He took care of the bird and did everything he could to help it fly again. A bear spent several days trying to find a way out of this garbage pit, and it had nearly accepted that it would never escape until a man with a log gave it hope. And this bear ended up in the same mess, except people first tried to rescue it with a rope. Not nearly enough for the creature's weight. The bear was able to find just enough strength to use a log. A kangaroo found itself in dire straits when it became trapped while trying to cross a shark-infested channel. Fortunately, it was spotted by kayakers when it had no more strength left. Now, the humans will return it to the right shore. A poor chick fell out of the nest and was left without a mother. But fate couldn't let this little life end, so it gave the bird a caring human mother.
But you don't try to give them water because they...
Arctic foxes are very cautious and perfectly designed to blend in with the snow, but a hunger forced this little one to reveal itself. And now it's even bringing friends. Meanwhile, this young snake couldn't find a drop in the desert for 5 long days, but it found kind people instead. Tragedy struck the reserve when its beloved she-wolf suffered a heart attack. The owner was devastated and knew that time was running out for the animal, but she fought to the end and brought the creature back to life. This little jerboa will remember the person with the glass of water as a real deity. A polar bear got so hungry that it stopped an entire ship. Its call for help was heard by the crew, and they shared with it the food they had left. This little sugar glider was prepared to fight till its last breath. Once it realized its efforts were futile, it allowed the human to take care of it. All is well now. Look at how carefully this elderly man carries water to that dog without spilling a drop. It's truly touching. These miners decided to share their lunch with a she-bear once they realized that she needed the food much more than they did. I hope they called animal rescuers, as they were supposed to do. A raccoon looking for food climbed into a garbage truck, never suspecting that it would fall right into a trap. But thanks to an attentive and responsive driver, the raccoon's life carries on. And this person invented a special device that allows them to successfully feed orphaned chicks. It looks so cool. When this baby deer fell into a pool, its mother abandoned it, and then a guardian angel sent this woman to help the poor thing.
All right, here I go. Mom, I hope the heart is here. Get me my stethoscope, now. Come on. I have a heartbeat. Come on.
What are the odds that she would be a doctor?
Okay.
Now, a new life awaits the deer. Some blind newborn puppies were scattered along a street, and their pitiful cries for help went unnoticed by many. But not this man, who subsequently gave them a loving family. A lioness was far from the watering hole and wouldn't have been able to get to it in time. But thanks to this brave man, her thirst was quenched. Some eggs that had accidentally fallen out of a blackbird's nest were saved thanks to a quick reaction by a gardener, and a dove that temporarily lended a mother's heat. Despite the harrowing ordeal, 2 chicks made their appearance in the incubator and were raised with care. And here's what they've become. When this young bear was left alone, it had to learn to fend for itself. But when hunting didn't work out, it turned to humans for help. And it worked.
He got it, didn't he?
These men were spending the night in the desert and weren't expecting company. But then a hungry little fennec fox showed up, and now he's a guest at their table. A group of kind souls saved a crow's life by giving it a new acrylic beak after it lost its own.
Line up normally. Black ink doesn't stay on for very long. It's that we use a crow Don with his...
An unfortunate baby giraffe was born with a rare limb abnormality, and its chances of survival were getting slimmer by the day. That's when orthopedists stepped in and made the world's first leg braces for giraffes. How wonderful that there are so many caring people in the world. This wolf had been starving for so long that it finally had to ask a human for help, and this kind man had to act quickly, so he didn't hesitate to give away all the food he had. A duck fought bravely in a fight with an eagle and even managed to escape, but not without suffering an injured foot. When she was found, she was exhausted and refused to give up. Her life will never be the same again, but now she has people who will take care of her and provide her with a comfortable life. A sloth may have sealed its own fate when it decided to hang on a power line 6 meters above the ground. The poor animal was scared and was only preventing its own rescue, but the worker was patient and determined to get the sloth down safely. Nothing was more important to this vet than making sure this stray dog felt safe enough to eat again after long-term starving in the streets. The man's small but meaningful gesture showed the dog that nothing bad would happen if it took some food. Due to the melting ice in the Arctic, it's becoming increasingly difficult for this polar bear to hunt. As a result, her fat reserves are depleted, and there's an increasing risk that she won't make it without human intervention. I hope it all works out for her.
After a fire, this cat had no chance, but his owner begged rescuers to save him. Firefighters sprang into action to revive the cat, and it worked. The woman's reaction proves that our pets are more than just animals. They're our family members. A flock of birds tried to rest on a fence, but they slipped and got their heads stuck between the boards, making them easy prey for would-be predators. That is, if it weren't for this guy. I don't know how this baby deer ended up in the middle of the river, but today is definitely his lucky day. It was so exhausted that it just couldn't walk, so this man became a temporary stand-in for its mother until...
You get out of here. There you go. There she goes, guys.
This sweet ending. This little bird was literally chasing a woman and her dog. It turned out that all it needed was a sip of water.
I said, Mom, I have a bird that needs my help.
This bat touched some power wires and died, but its fur protected her baby. The poor thing doesn't want to let its mother go. But it looks like it has a new mother now.
Okay, baby. Yeah.
During a flood in Texas, 70 horses became trapped, but people refused to leave their homes until they had saved them.
I mean, they're part of the family.
One of them managed to get to the lifeboat, but the other was too scared. So a man led it to dry ground by hand. This is what true heroes look like.
By the way, now son, go ahead and careful with him.
That's thank you in horse.
But
this brave dolphin swam into a group of manta rays to ask divers for help. It survived a long 5 minutes without air while the line was being untangled, and then it came back to get the hook out. Baby deer lost its mother during a flood and didn't know what to do, but it looks like it has new parents now.
I don't know what to do with them. I can't just leave them.
Oh my god.
This little bird was trying to hide from the scorching heat and chose the right driver. He gave it a drink and even a ride in the AC. The end should have come for this little bird in a river. Instead, it got some snacks and a ride to dry land with the captain.
Go. Now he is sitting on the phone. See you later, buddy.
A dog was left alone in a flooded house during a storm and didn't know how to get out. And then this stranger climbed into the cold water to help him escape. For 2 long days, an elephant tried to free her baby from a mud pit while also keeping people at bay, until she finally collapsed from exhaustion. And that's when the kind crowd took action.
Yeah, all right, be careful now.
A sparrow froze to a pipe and appeared doomed to be stuck forever. But this man wouldn't leave the bird in its time of need, and warmed it with his own heat.
Cuidado.
Fly away.
A dolphin calf wasn't even able to call for help after becoming trapped right at the water's edge. But these people came together to get it home to its mother. Fortunately for this bear, the fishermen realized that it was more afraid of them than they were of it. It was too heavy, but they managed to find a way to rescue the bear without lifting it into the boat.
This leopard got tangled up in some wire, and every movement caused it immense pain. People had to sedate the animal in order to execute their rescue operation. Now, it can receive proper treatment in a rehabilitation center. That's all for now. If you've had to save an animal before, tell us your story in the comments. Everyone should know about it. Don't forget to subscribe and click on that bell, and we'll see you very soon.